Everybody in chat's jealous of the guitar display. Now that everybody is pretty warmed up, let me get the official YouTube intro out of the way, and then we'll go from there. Hey everyone, Anthony Fantano here, internet's busiest music nerd. I hope you're doing well. And today we have an exclusive conversation with the one and only guitarist, composer, metal personality extraordinaire of the band Dragonforce, Mr. Herman Li. How are you doing, man? Thank you for coming through.
Anthony, thank you so much for having me. Very happy to be, chatting to you and hang out here.
Yeah, I mean, I wanted to get your I guess like temperature on a lot of things, because like, you have been a force in metal music. Dragonforce has been a force in metal music for so long. And I feel like, especially as of late, like you've really, there's like a piece of dust flying near my face. It's like the most distracting shit. I feel like, you've really kind of, as of late, embraced and enhanced like the band's status as not just like in metal music generally, but as like a meme on the internet, and I feel like, you've almost kind of come to own that in a really creative and profound way, because, I remember there was a time like when I was in college, people would sort of, at least in like the very snooty indie scene, would kind of gawk at the excessiveness of Dragonforce, you know what I mean? And almost as like a result of that, like not take what you guys were doing seriously. But it seems like over the years, like you guys have kind of, kind of taken those reactions for what they are and almost empowered yourselves with them, and have kind of transcended all that hate, transcended all that negativity, and have become like one of the more, not just well-known, but like well-respected bands in and outside of metal, frankly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Dragonforce was never a serious band. It's like, we never took ourselves too seriously. If we did photos where we like crossing our arms and looking at the camera this way, we're kind of like laughing. It's like, I guess this is what you have to do a band photo. You can't have all the, we're not a pop punk band. You can't go around doing that all the time. We like to joke around and have fun. And we did a lot of fun stuff back then, like on stage, and we were kind of a meme band even back then. We had the trampolines and all this crazy stuff on stage. We started off with mp3.com. We're talking about early days, right? This is like in the 90s. And, it was kind of but we didn't, because at that time when we did it, before the whole YouTube thing, it's like it never happened. And to be honest, I never got into the Instagram thing, because when Instagram came out, it was all about taking selfies of yourself. And look, I'm really a nerd. I don't think anyone cares about what I look like or what am I doing for my dinner. So I kind of really skipped that kind of Instagram generation. And at the end, I think around 2018, I thought, you know what? I'm kind of a shy guy. I don't really open up, and people get a wrong impression of me. They thought I was like a stuck-up guitar prick who just think I'm so good on the guitar, that kind of thing. Because when I'm on stage, I perform, right? I don't stand there and just stare at the guitar. I make stupid things and, do flying knee, do spins in the air, the trampoline, all that stuff. So I thought, you know what? I'm just going to be myself, and you can see what really I'm about. And the whole meme thing, I always laugh. We always have a good laugh in Dragonforce, and you can see from the lyrics and the music videos we've done, even back in, I guess, Through the Fire and Flames, the big meme song, is we were like shredding and drinking beer on that video and doing kind of fun stuff. So it's good that it kind of turned around and people liked it. It's when you're in a band, you get hate and you get love. And I think after being in a band and doing music professionally for that long, the haters at that time kind of grow older and have kids now, so they kind of like got out of the train. And they got
a life.
Yeah, they got a life. They kind of grew up, and generation are different, right? The way they see what they can, what can be said on the internet, what can't be said on the internet. I think it's, it changes, and hopefully I think people are a bit more educated in a certain way, that people are nicer than they used to be to us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know, I would say though that like in terms of the way that you guys even present yourself on your records, like, you know, if you look at some of that older album art and some of like the, you know, older song titles, like there is kind of like an element of hardness to them. But on, you know, your latest LP, like Extreme Power Metal, everybody's on the front, the lasers are going, the explosions are there. I mean, it does seem like there is like a certain level of cheekiness to it being embraced, you know what I mean? Like, was there ever a point earlier in the band's career where maybe there was pressure to, sure, while you're not taking yourselves too seriously, but still like kind of give people, at least aesthetically, like a metal experience? It has to look kind of grim, it has to look kind of dark, it has to look kind of menacing to sort of like get the point across, or at least signal to people, this is a metal record, metalheads come, please, like this is your thing, try it out.
You know, we pretty much, I think, I'll be honest with you, from the first album, I mean, from the demo on until our fourth album, we pretty much did everything we wanted. We didn't listen to anybody. It's like, go away, you know, we don't care. We're just going to do art the way we did. And I think, you know, we got very successful doing the thing. And I was managing the band myself until, I mean, the whole explosion of Through the Fire and Flames. I was managing the band up to then. And then, you know, once you have success, people start coming in, you know, and they want to tell you they know better than you about what you're doing. Because guess what? You're in your 20s. What do you know? You haven't been in the music industry. You just play the guitar, you do your band for fun, and you became, suddenly you had this money coming in. There's always people coming to tell you they can do better. So I think later on, I think around 2012, that album, there, like for a few years, you know, that kind of management tried to like tell you like, oh, you should be more serious. You know, you shouldn't be so stupid. I mean, you know, stop doing this video game noises and all that stuff. And so in around 2018, before we started making Extreme Power Metal, I sacked everybody. It's like, you know what? Screw this. I thought these people work for us. You know, we pay management, these people, to work for us, not to tell us that everything we do is wrong, you know? So, you know, I'm not the guy I need a yes man, you know, to tell you, oh, you're amazing, you're amazing. Look, I'm very self-critical and I'm a perfectionist. I never think I do anything that's good enough. But, you know, that's the point. I thought, you know what, we just do what we always done, manage ourselves, play music the way we want, and just don't care if people like it or not. And so I think the result of the last album, Extreme Power Metal, everything was like, this is what we are, and we don't really care what you think. Yeah, again.
Getting deeper into that, what you were saying, like, how logistically do you feel like, you know, managing kind of spreading the word of Dragonforce has kind of evolved over the years? Because obviously, like, you know, when you guys formed, or, you know, were doing your thing in the late 90s, like, the internet was obviously a thing, you know, it was becoming a thing, but it wasn't the primary mode through which like music was promoted. And now not only is the internet that, but like, you know, you personally have kind of like fully embraced that as like almost the, you know, the I guess like internet czar of the band. You're constantly putting out TikToks, you're constantly, you know, streaming on Twitch, you're constantly putting out YouTube content, you know, commenting on your own music, commenting on other covers and performers and so on and so forth. Like, you know, how much of your personal time, you know, is this kind of like eating up week to week, and how do you kind of find balance with not only that, but like performing and writing and doing what you have to do with the rest of the band?
I think the approach I've gone with is, so I'll give you a bit of background about myself. Is before I became a professional musician, when we started Dragonforce, it was just for fun, purely for fun, didn't care about money, anything. I had a day job working as a computer IT guy. Oh. So the internet and everything like video games always been in my life. I remember downloading my first MP3 in the mid 90s, I think 94 or something like that. You know, so I've been on the internet like really early on. But I always been a shy guy, you know. I have my opinion. I like to, you know, I'm a fan of music. So I like to listen to music and think about it and talk about it with other people. You know, back then, before the internet, you go to shows and you talk to people and you chat and discuss music. But I think when the internet got really big and there was like social media, I didn't feel comfortable of opening up to discuss and chat and join in, because, you know, I was never a confident, outgoing guy. You know, I've always been like introverted. And I think somehow, you know, let's say when I played on stage, I became a different person. I'm like full on. Like, you think, what's this guy thinks he is? He's like he thinks he's full of himself or something, you know. And I think I was able to kind of like got more experience working in music, playing music, and then I finally kind of opened up now, and I decided to join the internet. Finally, you know, like I said, we did the MySpace stuff. Like we were huge on MySpace. You know, we did all these shows or secret show, and I knew the people at the company. You know, it was like a big thing. And then I guess afterwards, I kind of dropped off the whole Instagram thing and really just started doing social media officially in 2018.
Yeah, I mean that's incredible. I mean, you know, just speaking personally here, is there any way, like in your day-to-day life, that's kind of change your outlook or the way that you approach things just in life in general? Because, you know, we're talking about you almost like coming out of this introverted shell when you're already pretty well into your 40s. You know what I mean? It kind of sounds like you've undergone a bit of a personal evolution here.
Maybe that's my midlife crisis, you know? Maybe something snapped, you know? It's like, right. I think people care about my opinion of anything before. It's like, I'm just this guy who plays the guitar, you know? Who cares? Maybe it snapped. To be honest, it's extremely challenging. And I gotta tell you, there's two brains, that creative brain and the business brain. When I'm doing creative, I cannot even think any business of what I need to do. And when you're doing business, like I can't think about music. Someone want to tell me, can you do this solo? I can't think about it. So it's really difficult to do that, managing the band, and then you got the whole, you know, content creation stuff. So, you know, I take each of those things and make it fun only. So none of them feel like a job. But at the end, you still have to make business strategy of the band. Okay, I'm going to go on tour. I got to do this. We're going to do fun Twitch content or fun YouTube contents. You know, it's not so much business, but yeah, you got to think of, I want to make something fun. I don't want to do something boring. So it is difficult. And I got to tell you, it is absolutely impossible to manage a band, play in the band, you know, make music, and at the same time be a full-time Twitch, YouTube content creator, TikTok. It's impossible. I have to drop one thing. Like I didn't do YouTube for a few months now. It wasn't possible for me to do a tour and do Twitch and then do even TikTok. I like stopped for like not so consistent anymore.
Yeah, well, I mean, a lot of the stuff that you have up on there is like evergreen, so it's as if you just put a lot of it up anyway. So, you know, I mean, the stuff is good. You know, I wanted to go from there and ask you about, you know, I guess like with your dealings online, there's just such an ocean of guitar related content out there in terms of like, you know, not just people covering your stuff, but just like really new, flashy, technical, you know, conceptions of playing and performing and getting certain sounds and harmonics and really everything. I mean, as somebody who spent as many years as you did in Dragonforce, almost being like, you know, pretty much the gold standard for shredding, you know, are you often finding yourself blown away by a lot of the TikToks or Instagram reels that you see day to day where people are, you know, sort of like pushing the boundaries of what you can do with the guitar? Does it make you sort of get in your own head and think like, oh shit, I need to practice this, or I need to do that, or I need to like, you know, bone up on this other thing?
You know, I feel really lucky that I'm still excited when I listen to music and see players play. Like, so I look at like TikTok, what? How you play that on YouTube? I'm always impressed by the players out there. And I think that power, that hunger in the youth, where you have no kids, you don't have to worry about so much, so the normal day things, it's give you that, you can focus that energy and make something special. And there's something out there all the time, you know, from, you know, I was watching someone do stream today and I thought, oh, that's interesting how they did that technologically, or like, you know, how they set up the stream all the way to how to perform. I'm always impressed, and I'm still learning to play the guitar. Most of my live stream is like, sorry, I'm here learning how to play the guitar. You know, there's no end goal to this. We're all beginners, really.
Yeah, I mean, does it make you think about just kind of like, I don't know, at least for me, somebody who plays bass and has played bass for as long as I have, you know, I remember like when I was younger, which, I mean, you know, I'm younger than you, so I imagine the resources that were out there, even for you, as you were like, you know, trying to teach yourself in the 90s, were even fewer. But like, you know, I remember like looking at a Jaco Pastorius DVD because there wasn't anywhere else on the internet that I could get that other than to order it and wait for it to come to me, you know? Like, do you find yourself, I mean, at least like reflecting in terms of how much these kids may have access to and thinking like, shit, that's not how far along I was at 16. You know, that's like totally, if this person continues on this track, they'll be like, you know, on the next level of next level by the time they're my age.
Yes, but the great thing is this: music, there's no better. This doesn't exist. It's just like creative stuff is, I think once you can put your mindset in that, it's not a sport, it's not a competition.
Sure.
Everything is awesome. You just, you know, you look at the internet, there's a lot of negativity where people say, well, that guy's faster, that guy's better. And I understand that when you're young, you know, you look at it that way. I thought, you know, I'm guilty when I was young, when I was 16, I go, oh, that guitar player is not very good, he's better. But they just using the tool as the guitar to create music differently. And you know, a lot of music I didn't listen to at the beginning. Now I listen to it. I go, oh, I can appreciate as I, you know, get wiser. I don't know if that's, or you experience different things and learn about it. I always, you know, I think, you know, personally, sometimes it's great to not care, because, you know, when you care too much, you stop creating. And I think when you're younger, your creative mind, you know, you're more rebellion. You don't want to listen to your parents. You don't want to listen to what, you know, the news of society. You know, that was the kind of the thing people talk about, right? You kind of going against it. And with Dragonforce, we went against the trend at that time, because guitar solos were not a cool thing when we did it. And we thought, okay, it's not cool. We're going to do double the amount of guitar solos and go even faster, crazier, more over the top, you know? And even then, video games was not a cool thing. So we thought, you know what, we're going to throw out retro video games influences into the music and really just make a big mess out of it and see what happens. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think it's interesting how you kind of frame it there as like a competition, because, I mean, at least from my outside perspective, not as a musician who's operating in this field, obviously, but in terms of like the way certain bands carry themselves, or the way that like the fans discuss these albums and artists in the meta, it seems like there's almost this implied, you know, attitude of like there is competition going on here, because everybody's going so fast and trying to shred so hard and play the trickiest lick or this or that. And I mean, you know, do you feel as an artist that you know, attitude is ever sort of like enforced upon you, and you need to sort of like get your head out of that space and be like, no, it's just art. I just need to make art here. I'm not trying to necessarily best the three other guitarists here. I'm just trying to do my own thing.
Yeah, because if you try to best someone, you already lost. It's just not going to happen. This the music industry, is so huge, you know. We don't only need one guitar player that's great. We need thousands. And there's, you know, I can listen to more than one artist. You know, it's not like, you know, sports, you win, you're the champion, that's it. But, you know, we're just brought up, I think, to, you know, it's most society to be better, or you're fighting for something, right? You're learning sports because you're competing, you're doing that. You know, this always that kind of level of competition that is brought into our lives, and this is a natural things for us to feel that way. And talk about earlier when you said, you know, do I feel like, oh man, I see so many guitar players, they're so good on the internet. Do I like, what do I feel about it? I gotta tell you, man, this is something that I've discussed with some of the best guitar players in the world. It's like the more we learn, the more we see, it makes us, even us as pros, make us feel like, oh my God, we're just not good enough. And it's from experience in doing things that that we able to kind of turn it around and say, you know what, I understand there's no peak of the mountain, but we should make the best creation or the best version of us and continue to do that every day. That was a part of the why I decided to be on the internet again. Is because, you know, I want to control the art, and being able to control the art is you have to be known. You have to have some kind of business control. So these days we have shifted from record selling to how many followers you get, you know, how many subscribers. This is serious stuff that endorsement, I mean, brand look for. How many social following you got? I don't care. You sell how many albums you play in front of 100,000 people. It doesn't matter that much anymore. The world have changed. So it's like, you know, you either do it, you get left behind. That's it.
You were kind of talking earlier about your own like personal ethos toward playing and learning and you know, just advancing at what you do, and you kind of referred to yourself as a bit of a perfectionist, you know, like with some of that competition stuff in mind, and just thinking about how your own playing and practicing has evolved over the years, like, you know, do you still kind of feed into that sort of perfectionist mindset truly and fully, or do you have to check yourself with that every once in a while and just be like, you know, I'm not going to push myself so hard that I make myself insane here. It's still about having fun. It's still about making art.
You know, my outlook on the perfectionist thing have really changed. In the past, you know, I was so worried about, you know, not playing perfect. And I think Twitch really helped me in getting out of that, oh, I gotta be perfect every time when I play, because it's kind of like it stopped your creativity because you're afraid to show something now. It's because there's no such thing as a perfect art, and most human beings don't like perfect art, because otherwise we all listen to just electronic drum beats and that's it, you know, nothing organic to it. Twitch, you know, I play a lot of guitars on stream and stuff, and I make mistakes and I experiment and try different things, and it actually made me a better guitar player by not being perfect or not scared of creating something that is imperfect. So I think it's what I think right now today in my thinking of understanding is it's great to have that perfectionist mind, but sometimes you got to switch that off and just make whatever your brain comes up with, and the imperfection will help you grow to be a better perfectionist. Yeah.
On Twitch and on, you know, like on a Twitch recording on YouTube, I had caught you talking in a really interesting way about a cover of, you know, a Dragonforce song, talking about how it's important when you are playing, no matter at what level that you're at, there is you weren't so much emphasizing technical ability, which I think a lot of people would be surprised by. You were more emphasizing expression and just making sure that whatever you're playing, there's feeling coming through on it. And, you know, no matter what a guitarist is playing, whether it be a Dragonforce song or some kind of experimental Sonic Youth, you know, noise rock type bit, like for you as a music fan and a performer, like what is a telltale sign for you that when you're listening to something that expression is coming through, you know, more than just like kind of a mere, I'm just trying to copy or copy and paste, you know, something that I heard somewhere else and I'm just going to play it as robotically as possible?
Ooh, it's hard to explain how I hear a piece of music and I think it's played well, expressed well. It's really hard to explain to somebody. You know, the more if you listen to a lot of guitar music, you kind of come together and go, okay, this is better than that in terms of feeling and expressing. Right. It's better. I have no idea what that even means.
No, I mean, listen, me too, as a music critic and a music fan, it's like, I know it when I hear it. You know, and I know when, and I know that even when I'm playing myself, like whether I'm putting some kind of passion into it or I'm just kind of like, you know, mindlessly practicing a certain thing so that I get it down just like by muscle memory, like, you know, at least maybe from your own personal perspective, have you ever listened to a solo back and be like, no, that's not expressing enough through this. There's not enough X or Y or Z to make the feeling I'm trying to translate here come through.
Yes, but no. The reason is this, because I play, right? When I listen to music, I have to take myself out of that as a musician, because then I will say, well, you should do that. You should do that. Well, no, that's because I would do it. That doesn't mean it's right. Yeah. Someone else is going to express differently no matter what. And I think it's about if I can connect to it. It's like, a lot of people ask me all the time, who do I think is the best guitar player in the world? Like all these things. And I come up with different answers all the time. I say, well, Kurt Cobain is one of the best guitar players in the world. And they just go, oh my God, what are you talking about? I thought you knew something, Herman. It's like, well, he inspired millions of people to play the guitar. He connected with them. So obviously the feeling expression is way more important than how fast and how much notes you can play in key and, you know, you're a jazz master, whatever. It doesn't, but if you can't connect with somebody, it's a different thing. Sometimes, you know, simplest thing is probably the most important thing. And we know we learn to do complicated stuff because when you're young, you impress your friends. It's kind of cool. You know, you're flexing a little bit, you know, but I always tell people, learn the simplest guitar parts and then make it your own. So you got the great simplest stuff that, you know, it's always sound good. And then you can build upon that. Learning hard stuff and try to copy people's expression is a waste of time, I think, because you trying to be someone in a very complicated way. You're spending so much time to play this really complicated lick when you can just create your own one that's similar. You know, how to say, it's easier to make something simple sounding like yourself than a complicated part sounding like yourself.
I think that's an insightful way to put it. I'm sure you've answered this before, but how many guitars do you have, please? Please tell me how many fucking guitars you have.
Well, this is about a quarter of my collection here.
A quarter of your collection.
So I think about 220 something at the moment. Because I don't give them. I've given actually quite a few, but I don't sell guitars.
Right.
And people always think, well, what's wrong? What's wrong with you? It's like it's my job to understand how guitars are built. So they're all different. It's like having different screwdrivers and tools in my box. That's all. Yeah.
Yeah. I imagine with that many guitars, every once in a while you're just like, yeah, take it. Yeah. No, really. No, I have a lot. So I wanted to ask you, you know, for maybe some of the guitar heads in chat, like as a player, is there anything like in terms of, you know, technology that you see out there that makes you excited to continue to play in terms of like, you know, recording technology, amp emulators, pedals, you know, certain gear that you could sort of like, you know, build into the body of the guitar. You know, I've seen some pretty crazy shit on your stream in terms of like, you know, the stuff that you get access to, but like, you know, what are some of the, you know, effects or bits of gear or something that like really gets you excited to get in there and tinker with it and just sort of like, you know, spend hours more on the guitar because it's kind of opening your playing up in a different way. It's kind of making you approach the guitar differently.
I would say what I get the most excited about these days is synchronizing. It's kind of a weird, uncool answer. Is actually synchronizing all the guitar sounds with the computer. So when we play on stage, we have a massive video screen at the back. You know, you know, I program it up. We've got giant arcade machines. We go up and play on them, do guitar battles and stuff. And you know, I don't have to press anything on stage. I program everything, the sounds, the effects, the delay, they all come automatically. So I love the way the technology, you know, with MIDI and control, I can make everything kind of work together. So I guess I kind of gone into that kind of nerd production area. But talking about plugins and software and amps and stuff, it's kind of interesting. I get asked a lot, what should I get? What should I buy? I say, well, I don't know. I can't really tell you because everyone's different. But one thing I can tell you, if you care about money, and you probably do as a musician, because most of us start off broke, is, you know, software and plugins, you know, they don't, there's no resale value, right?
Right. It's
depreciation. I mean, look back in 20 years time, you might look back at this software and go, oh my God, this doesn't sound anywhere as good as something there now. But amplifiers, analog stuff, man, they, you know, if you get a good one, it's always valuable because that's the reference, you know, that's like the holy grail of where the technology, the emulation and modeling is trying to copy. So you get one of those amps and it forces you to play well, because then you look back, it's like, oh wow, back then they didn't even have all these effects. You gotta have to make your guitar and your fingers play well. So you know, sometimes all the great technology and the computer stuff, actually like recording technology, it's come a long way, but it makes you more frustrated about yourself because you can retake and re-record about 1,000 times. You don't even know if that was a good take anymore because it's so easy to redo it.
No, I mean, that's a great point, and especially in the way that it can affect, you know, your approach and your ability as a player because it makes you play a different way. You know, in the grander scheme of things, though, because obviously, like, as you say, like, technology obviously plays a role in the way Dragonforce performs and records and everything like that. Like, would you say, though, that still there is, you know, a fair trade-off happening there in terms of just the convenience it provides, you know, and I guess like in the grander scheme of things, we're still seeing amazing musicians, like, you know, on guitar, just doing incredible mind-blowing stuff. Like, you know, when we look at like the crop of new guitarists that are out there, I don't know if you could necessarily say it's like ruining the craft or making people lazy or anything like that, you know?
I think if you want to do it, you're going to do it with anything, with good technology or bad technology. Nothing going to change someone's determination to make the art.
Let me ask you a little bit about you know, some of Dragonforce's influences outside of metal, and, you know, you mentioned video games. Everybody sort of knows those video game connections, but like, you know, I listen to the early stuff, you know, especially like the first several records, like there's so many solos and like instrumental passages that not only remind me of like classical music, but also Celtic music as well. Like, is that something that consciously, you know, you guys were kind of pulling on those early records, or that just sort of like happened to kind of fall into place?
I think music influences. So we're talking beyond the guitar, right?
Right.
You know, I think playing the guitar, that's the strongest, you know, metal and rock and jazz. That's like, you know, that's really pushes the level of the guitar to another level. But we listen to pretty much everything, pop music, you know, whatever is popular out there that sounds good that we like, you know, all the way to, I don't know, Enya. I mean, you know, classical music, there's really no boundaries. And once you create the boundaries, you start to sound like, you know, like one thing. So video games music, you know, that's obviously talked about a lot. You know, we got a lot of inspiration from retro games music as well. That's why there's so much melodies and those kind of things happening. I mean, to be honest, people find this weird. I've been listening to a lot of Taylor Swift recently. You know? And I thought, wow, the production here is really good. I really like how that was done and produced, and the sound, you know.
Right. Are you talking about like the new records, or like, you know, like the folk, like the indie folk more releases that she's been doing as of late?
That one I listened to a little bit, not that much, but you know, I haven't really listened to her that much, but I gone back and heard, because, you know, the whole thing of her re-recording her music. Right. You know, that stuff. So it made me interested to go and check it out. So like, how does this one sound like compared to the old one? How different? How is she able to reproduce a song, you know, re-record it and make it sound exactly the same? Because I always thought when a song is recorded, no fans want to hear re-recording of it. They cannot relate to this new thing. I don't know what you're trying to do, bypass copyrights, you know?
Yeah, essentially.
That magic that was created then when you were at whatever age cannot be reproduced. But at least for me, anyway, for the metal music, you know, where there's basically barely any sampling or anything, everything had to be played. There's no computer to, you know, make the MIDI for you. Right. And I listened to it and they go, oh, okay, well, actually, that sounds different. Doesn't sound the same. It was very close, but not the same. Yeah, right. I was able to hear the differences. Yeah. No, I mean, me too. I sort of reviewed some of those re-recordings as well and kind of gave my thoughts on them. Not, you know, necessarily from a super critical standpoint, because, you know, it's almost pointless to review an album that's already been out for years and years and years. You're sort of more assessing like how close is it to the original. And yeah, sort of as you insinuate, like her whole goal there is to sort of like give fans a recording that they can listen to instead of the one that she doesn't own 110%. You know, as a creative, I know you were kind of digging into a little bit there, but, you know, if you had to, you know, like, would you see personally any benefit artistically and maybe even monetarily to like, hey guys, like we could re-record our first several records and we could own all of it completely and totally, and the fans would just listen to those and support us with that? Like, do you think, you know, there would be any benefit to that? Just sort of like, you know, thinking in terms of like a thought experiment here, or would, as you kind of insinuate, the whole process be too much of a pain in the ass, like re-recording and recreating every moment exactly as you possibly could? I mean, I think really the reason to do it, one, is you're pissed off with your record label, you know, and you just don't want that record label to do what they're going to do with the recording. And you got enough fans to, you know, just say, you know what, you put your middle fingers up and that's it. I mean, to re-record it, I think it's kind of a nightmare. You know, what can I say that, what experience have I got I can relate to? So when we did our demo, we did like a 5-song demo back in 2000. And when we had to record the album, it was like, oh shit, this is kind of difficult to re-record the same songs we done on the demo again. You know, I found that really much more challenging than just recording a new, fresh song. And the demo didn't sound that great anyway. It was kind of playing out time and kind of, you know, out of tune, the singing, but you know, we thought it was good because we heard it so many times. It was imprinted in our brain to think that's how it's supposed to sound. And you know, the demo was so bad that you shouldn't, you know, create that same thing. But it was still difficult to re-record it, and it still have that same energy to make that something that you go, wow! I listen to my new album. It's amazing. It's like I couldn't go to. I heard this song. I played these songs on stage already for last two years or 3 years. Yeah.
It doesn't really matter to you personally, like who's heard the track, even if it was somebody who's heard it for the first time. But as, you know, you creatively, you're like, I did it. I finished it. It's done. I can't continue redoing it. Like the energy won't be there.
Yeah.
Well, I wanted to hit you up and ask you a little bit more deeply here about some of the other popular artists out there right now that, you know, especially some of the ones that are referenced on your TikTok, like Blade, for example. Kind of seems like maybe ironically, maybe unironically, you mess with that guy's music a little bit. You know, I've reviewed some of his music very positively as well, sometimes negatively. You know, are you a bit of a drainer? Are you messing with Blade's music here and there?
It's kind of a long answer, but I'll tell you. Obviously, my favorite type of music is rock music for sure. Yeah, and you know, I said about I listen to other kind of pop music out there. I listen to radio, like in this little box where I just think guitar. This is the best thing in the world. And to be honest, I'm probably gonna get in trouble for saying this. You know, people always say, "Oh, rock music is dead," and all these things, and you know, and to be honest, there's a reason why rock music or metal or guitar based music isn't in the forefront of the music scene, because I think we lost some of that. I think there's that little fear of creating a bit over the top and being not too serious, or you know, I think a lot of them are a bit too serious of themselves, a lot of rock musicians, that they're afraid to have fun. And, you know, you look at rap, hip hop, they have that thing, they're serious, but they able to inject some fun, a laugh. You can listen to lyrics, you go, okay, I get it. He's having a laugh here. And so, you know, I look outside the box for different ideas to make myself more creative at the same time. And I'm talking about not just music, but business. I mean, I think the rappers out there are so smart. You know, how they release music, how they manipulate the scene, the digital assets, you know, right? You know, algorithm or Spotify, all this stuff. You know, rock music just isn't there, you know, or heavy metal music in terms of creativity and being in the forefront of the technology that's happening.
That's really interesting. I mean, obviously, there's been so many articles and think pieces about like the downfall of rock music, or the, you know, the lack of relevancy of guitar music in the current age. I mean, I think, like, you know, it has been changing quite a bit, though it has been sort of, I think, returning through a different series of faces and artists. Like, you know, you hear a lot of prominent guitar songs on the Olivia Rodrigo record, and you hear a lot of prominent guitar songs on the Lil Nas X record, and, you know, you hear a lot of guitar featured on the Billie Eilish record. You know, it's not like Kurt Cobain. It's not like a bunch of metalheads or anything like that. Like it's returning in spurts here and there. But, you know, there's a lot of theorizing as to why, but you personally put it up to kind of attitude. Like just sort of like people aren't really like, people are feeling like, oh, this is a bit dour. This is a bit down. Maybe we want to have a good time instead.
Look, I think there's that kind of safe element when you play metal, okay? Look, I'm a bit pigeonholed. Metal is so big, you know, there are other bands that are doing exciting stuff, but I think majority, you know, the thinking is sometimes, you know, you've got to be serious, metal, that the stuff, don't smile, don't make too much of a joke. And that's just kind of a safe passage. And in a way, you know, we were kind of making fun of ourselves, doing silly things, Dragonforce, and they said we're a novelty band now, we're a joke band, you know? There's that. No one want to be labeled a joke band, right? Because they always say, well, joke band doesn't last very long. Right. But, you know, we're just being ourselves, because what's the point of making music or being in a band if you just hate what you're doing and you can't really be yourself? But I would say, look, if you do the formula in the European circuit of like doing the album, serious stuff, music, write good music, of course, you know, do everything right, you can have a very safe, sustaining career in Europe. In the US, not so much. US, you gotta be inventive, you gotta be creative to get there. You know, you hear about a lot of bands over in Europe that are not big or known in America, and they are super successful. You know, their career is great down there. And you might say, oh, they're a bunch of has-been. They had one song here in the US, stuff like that. But no, you know, there's a different market and people, different culture, the way they consume things. Where the US, you know, you gotta come up with some smart ideas all the time. I think in metal, you can sometimes fall into that category of, you know, being safe and not being too, you know, being serious is look, the reason I'm saying this is because I've been told, Dragonforce, you gotta be more serious. You guys are not gonna make it. You guys, blah, 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 blah. And the funny thing is, when we were at our most popular back in the 2000s, you know, we got a gold record, a platinum record, whatever. In Germany, we were not that big. Even though people say, oh, they're huge in Germany. No, they thought, what the hell is this band? You know, they don't follow the traditional route of a heavy metal band. They thought we were kind of odd. You know, it takes much longer to establish yourself in Europe. You're just not going to get that instant explosion. But you know, to be honest, it's very complicated, and people are going to probably give me shit about this because there's no right answer. I'm not saying I'm right, but that's just my opinion of what I have lived through in the scene and doing this internationally. Yeah.
No, I'd like, from my own perspective as just a music fan, while I think, you know, it's been really great to kind of see, you know, the internet become a bit of a level playing, you know, create things in more of a level playing field sort of way where, you know, more underground and indie artists can sort of do their thing and come up and get attention. And, you know, it can really be about just like, you know, sort of the art and what exactly the record sounds like, and that's it. But I think like in that transition with like things being kind of, you know, again, leveled off in that way, with some bands, there's almost been like a lack of appreciation of like the theatrics of what made a lot of classic rock good. Not just the way that it sounded or the way that the bands played or anything like that, but like, you know, you think about the way a band like Black Sabbath or an artist like Alice Cooper would present themselves, you know, in like such a dramatic and over the top way to sort of give listeners and really at the end of the day, like viewers, you know, people who are there like watching it play out before them live, like a sense of mystery and, you know, like there's an aura about them, which I think is like in a way, and maybe you could comment on this yourself, like what has made a band like Ghost so popular, you know? And, you know, I personally don't love every Ghost record. Some of them I think are great. Some of them I think are not so great, but it seems like every album cycle, regardless, is like, you know, a movie and it's a concept and it's like kind of this big story and there's like a huge visual element to it. And, you know, even with you guys, even though you're not getting out there in costumes per se, like there is an extreme sense of showmanship to what you do when you're going out on the stage and everything. So, you know, sorry. You know, would you say like, I don't know, there's maybe an element of showmanship that's kind of been lost over the years for whatever reason that it has, that, you know, if it could be brought back, it could kind of bring this music back into the forefront maybe?
You know, I'm going to do the ending of this conversation, the ending of this answer. At the end of the day, the artist should do whatever they do and what they're comfortable with. True. I think. But I agree. I think it's missing that. We talk about Alice Cooper, you know, like there was that kind of, there's that element that makes you gravitate and go, I want to check this out. This is exciting, you know. Look, popular music, let's say pop music, where, you know, rock was once upon a time pop music, Metallica, you know, metal, it was pop music. Sure. Needs a bit more beyond the amazing musicianship and songwriting. It needs a lot more to get people, you know, into it, you know, that casual listeners. I think without that is, you know, look, I think guitar music is the healthiest it's ever been, but it's not overground. You know, look at players like Tim Henson, Polyphia. You know, it's incredible how they're able to make instrumental music so cool and popular now. I mean,
and fun. Their music, for as being as technical it is, it's very fun to listen to.
Yeah, it's so hard to play, but it sounds so good. I mean, it's you know, we had them on stage. I had them on my stream. They're extremely fun people, you know, but you know, they're able actually to do that kind of cool aesthetic. They're not like, you know, they're funny, but like off stage. And but I'm kind of gone a bit off on that. But mainly, you know, it's you know, I feel like maybe, you know, when you're in a metal band, you're afraid to, you know, be not so macho, you know, sometimes, you know, it's just like tough guy image. Sometimes it makes it a bit more how to say, you know, dress the same, dress all together. You are this kind of part of this group. You're part of this machine here, you know, like Five Finger Death Punch, you know, kind of like that. I mean, look, I know those guys, they're really cool guys and I'm friends with them, but, you know, they have their image that, you know, that is that kind of thing, right?
Right. No, I get it.
And sometimes, you know, fans can also misinterpret it, you know, as well. It's like, oh, you're not a serious band anymore, so you don't want to fall into that trap. And there's all these people, you know, with the percentage on the line that don't want you to do that. Yeah.
And when you say like not a serious band anymore, like people sort of buy into that perception or sort of like give you that feedback when you're not willing to kind of feed into that macho attitude?
They, you know, there was a time where they told us, it's like, well, you know, you guys need to be more metal. And I don't know, Dragonforce need to be more metal, you know?
Dragonforce is one of the hardest metals. What are they talking about?
But I guess we're not going raw. We're not as, you know, we're not dressed in black. I never thought I would do a music video when I started in a warehouse with some lights. You know, we always laugh about, a metal video, you headbanging in a warehouse, you know, in the dark and stuff. We actually did one, you know. Right. I guess I got pushed and kind of like, I guess we got to do one of those, you know, that kind of thing. It's sometimes, how would I spin it around to tell you? I try to explain to musicians is this, not so much in the arts, but in order to control your art and control your music as much as possible before all this comes to you, that means you become successful and only going to water it because they tell you that's a better way to progress and get bigger. Is you have to understand music business. Music business help you. As boring it is, you don't have to be the master, you know, manager in the world, but you have to understand some of it because that's going to help you retain your artistic vision.
And, you know, finally to end things off, just because, you know, I asked this lovingly just because I refer to myself as a nerd in what I do as well. You know, personally for you, as you kind of think about those kind of traditional metal attitudes that you're almost like pressured into in a way, how does that contend in your own mind? Because obviously, like, you know, you feed into that a little bit because it's just fun to do with either a leather jacket or sunglasses or, you know, the black and the hair and the so on and so forth. But yeah, I think one of the first things that you said when we kicked the interview off is like, you know, I've been introverted for such a long time in my life and I'm also kind of a nerd, you know? So it's like, you know, how does that kind of balance out in your own mind personally?
That's a good question, actually.
Because yeah, you're a bit of a nerd, but you're also kind of a badass too. You know, you're a badass dude, I think.
I don't know, really. I gotta tell you, I've never said once in an interview that I'm good on the guitar. You know, I just try my best and do the best possible. And I don't know, to be honest. I'm kind of a bit lost on that one. You kind of got me on that one. You know, how do I balance this?
I'm just saying you're a layered guy. You know, there's you know, Herman Li is an onion, and we're just peeling back a few of the layers in this conversation, and that's all.
Yeah, I guess I'm always learning about myself too.
Right.
It's funny.
Especially
you never
with
really
like,
know.
Yeah, especially with what you were saying, kind of coming out of your shell more, just on social media in general.
No way in hell in my life, when I look, we talk about even when I was, you know, got famous, whatever, became a successful musician, did I think I would be doing YouTube contents? And I'm having a blast doing fun stuff, and I'm doing Twitch and I'm having fun doing it. I've never thought I had that personality. I think it kind of came because you have to do interviews, you have to do things, and slowly you develop your character and start feeling more comfortable about yourself to talk. Look, to learn to play the guitar, and I actually said that to Tim Henson from Polyphia. I said, look, to learn to play the guitar, you don't have time to learn to socialize and be a normal person, to operate in a society that you can go to party and be cool, and everyone to talk to you and go, yeah, man, cool, and we go party, we do whatever you want, you know. That's just not in the program. I learned that program after the band became successful, and we're touring around the world, which I took advantage of and party super hard and have so much fun. And I learned the social aspect like later in my life. And then slowly that's kind of developed, and I felt more comfortable to talk to people later on. But, you know, back then you find me in a party, unless you talk to me, I'm afraid to talk to anybody. Yeah.
You know, okay, last question here, really. You know, personally, and this doesn't need to be like I'm working on this on guitar or anything like that. You know, given the personal answer that you gave just there, like, you know, what's another thing that you feel like, you know, just in your own life, like you're working on that you would like to be better at? Maybe at some point it was like, I want to be more outgoing. I want to be more talkative. I want to be more open to people and sort of present myself in sort of a bolder and just like more warm and welcoming way. Like, you know, what else personally do you feel like you are working on to sort of improve your own life or improve what you do with your work or just kind of the way that you operate in the world?
Well, I'm going to give you a kind of boring answer.
Hey,
you know,
as long as it's the truth.
Now I have a almost 3-year-old daughter. Your life looks very different. You know what I'm like no longer the priority. I'm like lowest in the food chain here in the family here. You know, you try to do better in other things. You know, you're no longer just doing things for yourself. You're doing something for someone else,
right?
All the time. So, you know, you try to be better in that and try to balance. You know, I don't want to be this person that just work, and then your child hates you. You know, when they become teenagers later on. And it's like, how do you balance about work to, you know, one thing I learned just in my short time as a dad, you know, how much time you put in is how much you're going to get from them, you know, what you're going to get back. So how do you balance to be able to, you know, support the family, do the stuff, because they don't understand that, oh, you're doing all this stuff for them, but it's like, well, you're not there, you know. I think that's what I learned anyway from theory. So I try to, you know, balance it out. And so I don't do any work in the weekends. And, you know, if I can retire, I'll take the retirement and just really chill and just do family time every day. That's it. Yeah.
Hey, that's not a boring answer at all. Dadding is a good skill. There's not enough good dads out there. So no, that's a good skill to learn. That's a very good skill to learn.
Thank you.
All right. Listen, you've been amazing. You've been incredible. I appreciate you being an open book and having the conversation and just lending your insight to everything we talked about.
Oh, Anthony, thank you so much for having me, you know, doing an interview with me. That's really cool. I enjoy what you've been doing, and it's great that I'm able to be part of your, the needle drop. So thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. You know, good luck on your future records, performances, and streams and everything. And we'll see you around.
Thank you.
All right. Have a good one.
Thank you.